Bending is what makes guitar fun. It's what makes it organic, and that's what we're going to work on throughout this course, is getting a bending technique that sounds good. The most important part about bending is bending in tune. Without that, anything else, vibrato, connected legato techniques, everything doesn't matter, because it'll be overshadowed by the fact that the bend is not in tune. And I can't tell you how many times I've worked with students in the beginning and commented on this very thing, the part about being in tune. I'll have people improvise for me in different scenarios, different styles. And the first thing that comes out is the fact that the bends are out of tune, or sometimes the bends are not played with the intention that they should. So players will seem to just push the string thinking that's what a bend is. And it's not. You are playing a note, and then you are stretching that pitch, obviously going up, to a new pitch. So it's not just an action that you do. It's not just it's not that at all. It's an intentional thing. You need to sound like this. Now, what I did right there is what we're going to be doing when we play together in our session. But let's talk about bending before we get into that. What I just did is I fretted the note with my third finger, and I supported it with my second finger, but I didn't use my first finger to touch the string. What I did is I laid it over the strings, and that's to cut out unwanted string noise, because there's two reasons why that will happen, and you'll see in a second. But let's focus back in on the fretting part. So third finger is fretting the note. Second finger is probably putting the same pressure on. Let's say, let's go with that. The same pressure is being applied as the third finger, when it comes to how hard I'm pressing against the fret. And those two are pushing the string up to play the bend. My bending strength, let's say, or the force, is coming more from here. So right past that first segmentation of your finger, that's where I feel the power coming from. At the same time, though, there's definitely some power coming from my hand. So fret with the third finger, second finger supporting, and you push in up. Notice I'm not buckling. That's super important. A lot of times when people start to bend, they do what I'm doing. They're trying to get to that pitch. But what happens is they don't keep this arch. You're going to move it a little bit. It's not going to be like this. You're going to move it a little bit, but it can't be like this. If your fingers look like this, you're most likely going to bend flat, even if you're making the effort and you're actually getting the feel, which I'm going to talk about in a second. You'll find that your results are just not getting the pitch you're supposed to, because when you fold over, your strength is gone, and also the string is probably starting to travel a little bit underneath your fingertips. So if the string moves, then that force that you're putting in is not actually the result that you're getting. So keep that little bit of an arch. Use the two fingers, because the second finger supports the third finger, so you have this combined strength of those two fingers to do it, and you'll probably start to get to where we're supposed to get. Now I'm going to have you bending here. It's pretty much kind of the middle of the neck. This is a good place because the tension is not that bad. Now I'm playing with 10s on this. I play 11s a lot. I even play 12s sometimes, but 11s and 10s are where I sit. I definitely suggest bending with 10s or 9s on your guitar. Just it's less tension. And here in the middle of the neck, it feels the best. The lower you go, the more tension you're going to feel, even with 9s. And if you're trying to bend on the high E string, even half step bends down here, it's a totally different thing. So don't get discouraged if unknowingly that you're trying to bend down there and you're having some trouble. Totally normal. The string is skinny, so it's hard to get a good grip on it, and tension is just tougher down here. Whole step bends are really hard down here, so from the third fret, any bend is tough. But on the high E string, it's even harder. Now, if you're thinking about the wound strings, we're going to get to that. Hold that thought. We're strictly going to focus in on the unwound strings, the G, the B, and the E, or the third and the second and the first string, which, by the way, let's clear this up. Those are the top strings. The wound strings are the bottom strings, but I'll make sure you know what I'm talking about. We'll talk about the unwound strings, or something like that. Now, remember I was talking about my first finger? So I'm bending with those two fingers I talked about. The first finger is not involved. Could be. Maybe you see players do that. But what I'm doing is holding my first finger over the strings to prevent unwanted string noise for two reasons. One, when I move strings, I could definitely activate them or get some sympathetic ringing, especially when you have a lot of gain. I got a decent amount of gain going on right here. I'm playing with a 100-watt combo, a Mesa Boogie Fillmore 100, and I actually have an AC booster. Well, no, an RC booster. It's a 2-in-1. It's Oz Noise signature pedal from Exotic. I'm using the RC side into this this amp that's set, with a fair amount of gain. All that equals potential for sympathetic ringing that's totally par for the course, but we don't want to hear that. So the first finger is what is cutting that out. Now the other reason why I do it is because a lot of times when I bend, I go into the note with a little bit of a rake. I don't want to officially call it a rake, but it is. My intention is to get a good, strong pick attack. I believe that when you bend and you're stretching this string, that's sort of putting a little stress on the whole point of what's happening when you play a string, and that is vibration. We're hearing that note because that string is moving. Now, when I go to stretch that, I think that you take away some of that vibrating potential. So I want to get the best attack possible. I want to dig in. I want to get a hard attack. And part of that is going in like that. Now, instead of trying not to hit the strings, I just use the first string. I use the first finger, and I rake in, I hit it, and I get a good attack. So, quick review. Third finger fretting it, second finger supporting it, first finger covering it up. And that combined is my general bending technique. Let's talk about the thumb. I was actually just reading an article this morning, doing a little extra research before I did this. And one of my old partners in crime at Guitar One magazine, Tom Kolb, had an article in Guitar Player where he mentioned that it's essential to have your thumb over the neck. Yeah, it could be. For him, it probably is. And for a lot of players, it is. For me, it's not. If you notice, my thumb is not coming over, but it is sitting sort of at the top of the neck. You can see it a little bit. When I go to fret, or when I go to play legato and other things like that, I'll probably drop it a little bit where you can't see it. And both instances have my thumb kind of pointing out towards the headstock, even though I don't have one on this particular guitar. So for bending, it kind of comes up here at the shoulder. And then when I start playing other things, I lower a little bit in between that shoulder and the middle of the neck. Either way, I don't come over the neck, unless I'm fretting things on purpose. Then you'll see my thumb come over. So to thumb or not to thumb, that's up to you. You need to make that decision. What it has to be based on is, can you bend in tune? Nothing else matters. You need to be able to bend in tune. Even if you're out of tune, I want to know that you're bending out of tune on purpose and not because you have a technique that's preventing you from doing what it is that you're trying to do. And when I say bending out of tune, I'm talking about maybe bending, just, certain things like that, getting different inflections. That sounded pretty weird, right? This is going to become really important when we start applying vibrato, which we're not going to do in this particular session. We're going to do probably in the next one. What we're trying to do here is play in tune. So what I'm going to do is play a lick for you, a 4-bar lick that goes over these changes. We're going to sit here in D minor. We're going to have this pretty cool shuffly Texas vibe. It actually is geared towards Trademark from Eric Johnson on the Via Musicom record. Just seemed like a fun groove to play over. So we're going to play a bend per change. So the changes are going to be D minor, then it's going to go to B flat, then it's going to go to F, and then it's going to go to A. What we're going to do is play a bend per change. But check it out. We're first going to play what I call a reference note, reference tone, reference pitch. So for instance, over the D minor, we're going to play this for 2 beats. And then we're going to bend to that pitch. That's the point. I want you to hear what you're supposed to sound like when you bend. Now, when you do it, you don't have to shoot that bend at the speed that I just did. You can totally do this until you get to that pitch. You should probably take it slow. You want to get to the pitch. Nothing else matters besides bending to the pitch. The way you can rate your success, first, is you're bending in tune. Second is how quickly you're getting to it. So when you start feeling like that you can do that, you're definitely starting to move forward. And we are going to get to a point where we're not going to play with the pitch. We're going to bend right to it. We're also going to get later in the course where we're going to do what's called a pre-bend or a ghost bend, where we're going to bend right to it without hearing the rise. We're just going to get to it, but don't worry about that. So I'm going to play a reference pitch. It's going to be the root of each chord. So remember the changes I just said: D, B flat, F, A. Where I just played those is the location for where you're going to play the reference pitches, and then we're going to bend the lower adjacent string each time. So for D minor, I'm going to play the D, then I'm going to bend here on the second string, the B string. Then for B flat, I'm going to play the reference pitch here on the second string and go to the G string, lower adjacent string, and bend. Each one of the bends is a whole step, by the way. Each one, we're bending a note 2 frets up, whole step up. For the third change, for F, I'm going to stay on the string set, play F here. Second string, bend on third string to F. Same pitch, by the way. These are, of course, the same pitches. And then finally, I'm going to get back up to the high E string. There's my reference pitch. Go down to the second string. And then I'm going to bend. Everyone's a whole step bend. Every one of these incorporates the technique I just talked about. Third finger fretting, second finger supporting, and first finger insurance policy, as I used to call it, or still do. Making sure that no string noise gets through. Same technique for each one, regardless of the string set. So reference pitch, bend. Reference pitch, bend. Reference pitch, bend. Reference pitch, bend. The tempo's slow enough that where you could play the reference pitch and then have some time to rise. And remember, it's all about the pitch. We want to bend in tune. So don't do this. I've given you enough time that you could play the pitch and rise to the pitch. Rise to the occasion. So, ready? This is what we're going to do. We're going to play that lick. I'm going to play that lick. Actually, you know what I'm going to do first before we play together? And we're going to do this throughout the course. I'm going to play the lick. I'm going to play it for you 4 times so you can hear what it sounds like. Watch my technique. And also notice one more thing. I am not going to apply vibrato. We're going to get into that later. So if you're looking for it or you're thinking, I missed it, it's totally intentional. I'm not going to play with vibrato. I'm just going to play those pitches because I want you to hear how pure this is supposed to be. So I'm going to play this lick for you 4 times, and then we're going to get together and play it. So let's get to it.